Welcome back, everybody, to the ATL Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Shepard. I'm joined today by Coach Jack Dahm of Mount Mercy University. Excited to have him on. He was highly recommended to us from our own Chico. I believe he coached Chico when Chico was in college. Coach,
Yeah, for 1 year
so
or a couple years actually. So
why don't you go ahead and, for everybody listening that may not know you and myself, obviously, I've met you today 15 minutes ago. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us where you've been and how you got there and a little bit of your journey along the way.
I've had an interesting journey. Probably things happened a little quicker for me than most coaches, and probably happened a little bit too quick, to be honest with you. I grew up in the Chicagoland area. Played all three sports. I'm a real big believer in playing more than one sport. I'm a big believer in learning how to compete in football, basketball, all that type of stuff. So I played three sports in high school. Actually got recruited for all three sports. Ended up signing at Creighton University, and I played 4 years at Creighton. My head coach was Jim Hendry, who ended up being the GM for the Chicago Cubs for about 12 or 13 years before Epstein was there. So I was very fortunate to play for him, and then he kept mentioning me. He'd like me to coach with him when everything was over, when everything was said and done, and had an opportunity to maybe sign a pro contract as a free agent. But Jim had offered me, a coaching position at Creighton University, and that was too good to pass up. So I started coaching right away when I was done playing. I was very fortunate. Creighton at that time was an up-and-coming program. My recruiting class was actually ranked third best in the country, not because of me, but because of some other guys. We had Scott Service, who is now the manager of the Seattle Mariners. Scott was in our recruiting class. We had a couple other kids from Iowa and the Chicagoland area, and so it really put Creighton on the map. And by the time I got done my junior year, we felt like we should have been in the regional. We actually were beating Wichita State in the championship game, and it rained, and they ended up giving the championship to Wichita State instead of us. I still don't know how that happened. Anyways, I was an assistant for a couple of years. We actually went to the College World Series, finished third in the country. After that happened, Jim Hendry, got offered a job with the Florida Marlins as an expansion team. The university, I was only about 22 years old at that point. They asked me to interview for the position. I said no, I wasn't ready for it, which probably helped me a couple years later when they came back. But Todd Winberg took over, and then after about 2 years, he went into private business, and they offered me the position and asked if I was ready, and I thought I was, which I wasn't. But I ended up being the youngest head coach in the country, probably for about 5 years at Creighton University. Was very fortunate, went to the regionals a couple times, coach of the year in the Missouri Valley Conference. And then I went to the University of Iowa for 10 years. Didn't have the success at Iowa. I wished, the commitment to baseball in the Big Ten wasn't where it needed to be, or at the University of Iowa. But the Big Ten has really changed now after the Big Ten Network and all that. I actually worked for the Big Ten Network for 3 years. When I was I thought I was going to get out of coaching. I was out for a year, and then ended up taking the job at Mount Mercy, and it's great timing. Absolutely in love where I'm at right now. I don't have to deal with the NIL. I don't have to deal with the transfer portal. When I do deal with it, it's in a positive situation, not in a negative situation. So I'm very fortunate. I've been, head coach going on my 30th year as a head coach. My priorities have changed probably. Of course, I want to win. I want to win a national championship, but most importantly is helping as many young kids get an opportunity to play college baseball. Also, I'm very big in trying to get my assistant coaches to be able to move on, become head coaches other places. So it's been a lot of fun. Who knows how much longer I'll do it, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I don't see myself doing anything else.
That's so interesting that just going back that you turned down the job the first go round at Creighton because you were
I didn't turn it down. I turned down the when they asked me if I wanted to interview for the position. I said I wasn't ready, and they I was 23 years old at that time, 22 years old, and there was no way I was ready. And
No,
I thought it would, uh, the number one assistant had been there with Jim Hendry the entire time, and it was his job. It
right.
should have been his job. And one of the biggest things I learned from Jim Hendry was loyalty. And I felt like if I would have interviewed, I was being disloyal to Todd Wimberg, who deserved the job and should get the job.
No, actually that makes sense. That's awesome. That's actually a great story. I coached in Iowa for what was it, an hour for 3 years. I coached
Okay.
at Iowa Wesleyan,
Okay. Yeah.
about an
Right
hour and a
down the
half,
street.
hour and a half south of you.
Yeah.
So
Right down.
I
Were they an NAI program at that time, or did
no,
they?
they were D3. It was after they switched. They were NAI. Obviously, you know all this. They
Yeah.
were NAI, then they went D3, and then now they're back. No,
Yeah.
they're
They
no
closed
longer a
it.
school, right?
Yeah, they closed the doors this past year.
Yeah.
We actually have a player from there that has a chance to help us quite a bit this year.
We, I mean, when I was there, I saw that coming. I've
Mhm.
talked about it on previous episodes. When I was there, if I didn't take the job at Oglethorpe, where I was before we started this travel organization, I was going to get out of coaching and just go teach because I'd taken an admissions job to make ends meet, and it was just I was miserable,
Yeah.
And I was in Iowa, and it's cold. It's cold. It's cold there, man. And
Yeah,
there's nothing. I mean, the wind in the winter is something. Is
it bites.
oh
It,
man,
it bites. So it's part of it, though. I'm used to it. I grew up in Chicago, so in fact, a lot of people thought I'd leave Iowa when I wasn't renewed after my 10th year. But I had young kids. It's Iowa. Iowa City's such a great place to raise a family, and so I'm happy with my decision to stay in. And my youngest son is actually a senior right now at Mount Mercy. So one of the things that attracted me to Mount Mercy is I got free tuition for my kids. So
yeah.
my oldest boy Casey, he's been coaching with me. He was my graduate assistant actually after Chico. Chico is my first graduate assistant, and then my son Casey. Um, so it's worked out well. And my daughter came here and graduated, and now it's my son's last year and so it's worked out well, and I've fallen in love with this place and very happy.
You gonna move south when it's all
Well,
done?
well, at some point I will. I love golf, and I'm so busy. I'm also coaching in the college league, the Clinton Lumber Kings, which is a college league. They were a minor league affiliate that got dropped, and Ted Torno, their GM, called and asked if I'd manage the team. He'd asked me if I had any recommendations for managing the team. Actually, I talked about Chico for that, and he goes, "Well, I want somebody with a little more experience." And I basically said, I want you. And I turned it down at first, but my daughter was getting married, and Mount Mercy doesn't quite pay like Iowa used to. So,
I bet it
uh,
doesn't.
yeah, so I ended up, it's been awesome. I've been doing it the first 3 years. We just got named the organization of the year in the Prospect League. We average over 2,700 fans a game, and it's been a tremendous recruiting tool
That's
for
huge in the
us.
prospect league.
Yeah, yep. So it's been fun. We average, I think we're in the top 10 for college attendance the last 3 years. So and they're averaging more fans during the prospect league games than they did when they were a minor league team. Of course, they don't have those cold games in April and
Oh
the
yeah,
game later on in the year. So it's worked out well. I think it's been a win-win situation. I actually have my other assistant coach, my Owen Oreskovich, is the manager of the Burlington Bees. And that's how successful we've been recruiting through the prospect league and with the transfer portal. It's been a huge positive for us.
oh, with the how different has the transfer portal been for you? Positive, negative? Like, are you getting a lot of kickbacks from that?
Yeah.
Are you recruiting from that exclusively? What I mean, if how many kids do you bring in a year? Let's start with that.
You know what? We're being an NAI school, we're really enrollment driven. We started a JV program. Actually, when Chico was here, We actually started where we had a JV program, and that's how I was able to get a graduate assistant. And through that, we're supposed to have 50 people in the program, but we got upwards of 80 kids in the program right now. So we're bringing in about 25 new kids a year. Now, I use it a little bit differently. I use, if I compare it to Major League Baseball, I recruit. The college game has changed so much. It's a very old. There's a lot of older kids with COVID, with less minor league teams, with the transfer portal. Our team this year, our average age of our starters is going to be 22, close to 23 years old, which I've never had that before. But what I
You'll
do,
sleep better at night. That's for
yeah,
sure.
and they're pretty good players too. So,
Yeah.
but what I'd like to do is we recruit a lot of the JV kids. Some of them are kids that know that they're probably going to play JV all 4 years here. Some of them I like to bring in about 4 or 5 kids that I feel like are what I call swing guys, where they're going to play JV in the fall. I play most of my games in the fall when the weather's good, the kids are in shape. I can spend more time with them, and we play all the JV games in the fall. But then some of those swing kids also practice with the varsity, inter squad with the varsity, and then have an opportunity to possibly travel in the spring. So I use that kind of like minor league baseball, where we want some kids that we're going to develop and be able to play for us as sophomores, or for sure as a junior. And then I look at the transfer students, the junior college kids, the kids from the transfer portal. I look at them as the free agents, kids that we can recruit, get, and fill holes what we have in the program. So I kind of do it like the minor league system, and then free agency with the transfer kids. So but the transfer portal has really changed a lot. It goes back to really when I first started coaching back in the day. Kids were able to transfer and play right away. So I was fortunate when I first took over as a head coach. We were one of the premier programs. We were a top 25 team, top 30 team in the country, and we're just coming off the World Series. So not too many people are able to what I call poach our players or recruit them off of in the summertime. But that's what a lot of people will do. I still remember Augie Garrido, a great friend of mine. He won a national championship, and I think it was his first one at Texas, and he basically come out and said, "Hey, I need a shortstop. Anybody out there that wants to play shortstop for Texas next year, let me know. I'm heading out to the Cape Cod now." Those were his exact words on national TV, and sure enough, he went out to the Cape Cod, signed a kid from another team, and he was able to play right away. So I was used to the stuff like the transfer portal. There wasn't a transfer portal, but kids could transfer and play right away. When they put the rule in that you had to sit out a year, it got a lot easier for us, where we, you didn't have to worry about losing the kids because they're going to have to sit out a year. But believe me, it's a wild, wild west in Division I baseball now. Between that, then you throw the NIL in there. A good friend of mine, the recruiting coordinator for Baylor University, Zach Dillon, he was my assistant at Iowa for a while, and he was at Mississippi State. He was Big 12 Player of the Year at Baylor when he was a player. He's down there again with Mitch Thompson, and he just talked about it's almost like speed dating. Nowadays you call kids, you say, "Hey, we need a shortstop. Here's what we have to offer. Here's the NIL money," and it's totally changed. It's not building relationships. It's just seeing, what the best offer is going to be for kids, which is tough. So I'm glad I'm not a part of that.
Yeah, it's funny. I always say just the whole recruiting process. There's so many parallels to dating. It's crazy. It's the same, but obviously so different.
Yeah.
And even before this, the transfer portal and the NIL, I could have never imagined. I played the Division II baseball, and then when I graduated, I had to do my student teaching in the fall after I essentially graduated. And I knew I wanted to coach college. I coached a year of Legion before, 2 years of Legion while I was playing college ball still, and then I coached in the Valley League before my senior year of college. Because I mean, I'm 5'7", 200 pounds. I'm not going anywhere, right? Like, I knew I was going to coach, but when I finished up my student teaching, it was January.
Mhm.
So the only thing out there was Division 3 in Wisconsin, at Northland University
Mhm.
under Ernie May. I don't know if you've ever heard of Ernie May or you
I've
know him.
heard the name. I don't think I've met him.
And that kind of just set me down the D3 path.
Mhm.
But obviously, you have so many friends in baseball, and you rub elbows. I could have never imagined the, I don't want to say quality of life or lack thereof, but just the lifestyle of a Division 1 coach.
Yeah, it's
And I think the best thing they did was made it where you can't talk to a kid till he's a junior in August
yeah,
1st, because I mean, those guys are probably talking to 14-year, like the Maryland coach that was on, Coach Jackson, said
mhm.
he'd talk to a 14-year-old kid, hang up the phone, and then he'd have to call a 22-year-old transfer. And I mean, just from 18 to 22, there's
Yeah,
such a maturity gap, as you know with your team now, how old they are. I can't imagine the two differences. And
yeah. It's you know what, and it's unfortunately some of those kids were getting offers when they were 14, just because they didn't want them to go to other places. And then all of a sudden they get in high school and they don't quite develop. They're telling everybody they're going to this Division 1 program, and then they don't quite develop. And it's a shame, because then they're let go from that college. This is something I always tell people. The best recruits I always got, if it was at Creighton University or at Iowa, were the last ones I signed. The ones that I got in the middle of the summer or late in the summer, because those kids stayed hungry and they had something to prove, and they just kept getting better and better. A lot of those kids that commit, way early, get a little bit comfortable and might
oh
not
yeah,
put the time in that they need to. And I can go through the list of Dan Lawler and Curtis Muller and all these kids that, and actually those kids both went out and played professional baseball also. So it's a lot of times the best players you get are the last ones you sign. And a lot of times for a while there, all the Division 1s were done a year before they even, before the, when kids were juniors, they're already done with that kid's senior class. So, but now, recruiting's changed so much, Shep, and I don't mean to bounce around, but
I'll
right
bounce
now,
around, baby.
yeah, right now, I mean, the I'd hate to be a junior or senior in high school. I think they need to be pretty realistic, and especially for the parents. It's hard for these kids. Everyone wants to be a Division 1 baseball player. The talent level, the age, still for another year or so, we're gonna have all the COVID kids. We got kids that are playing college baseball for 6 years. It's absolutely, absolutely amazing. But number one, let's talk about Major League Baseball dropped 43 minor league teams. They cut. There's only 20 rounds now, when at one point there was over 60 rounds. Those are less opportunities to play professional baseball. So now those kids are in college baseball playing Division 1. Now you got all the kids that are in the transfer portal that were Division 1 or Division 2 kids. And so the Division 1 teams aren't signing as many high school kids. You got to be an elite player at the high school level now to get an offer from a college Division 1 team, because they'd much rather get a kid that's had experience either at another Division 1 or Division 2, Division 3 NAI program. Which, by the way, we're no different right now than a JUCO. I mean, I could bring in a top flight freshman, and if he really develops, he could go somewhere else after his freshman sophomore year, and we'd help him if that's the case. But it has changed, so it's tough on kids. The junior colleges are more talented than ever before. The NAI, I can't tell you how much talent there is at this level. We played Division 1 teams and we beat them. And we've got, I think right now, actually my left fielder, center fielder, right fielder, third baseman, shortstop could have played Division 1, first base. Two of my catchers and a bunch of my pitchers were all guys that were at Division 1 level at some point. And so that shows you what type of talent level we have here, and that's throughout all of NAI baseball.
It's NAI is ridiculous, and it's been, you see a lot of these NAI teams even when I was in high school.
Mhm.
I think one of the misconceptions, and this is mainly because parents and kids don't get out and watch a ton of college games other
Yeah.
than what's on TV is they just think, okay, if I can't go D1, I'm gonna go JUCO and play for 2 years, or I'm gonna go NAIA and play. But they don't realize that you, an NAIA team that gets off the bus is donkeys, big old donkeys. I remember I went to a camp in high school at Mount Vernon, and which was still an NAIA school,
Yeah.
and the whole team was either Cuban Latino players or big country bumpkins.
Yeah.
And they were huge. And I was just, again, I was probably 5'4" at the time and
Yeah.
overweight. And I was just like, oh my God, and the JUCO talent is a lot of Division I kickbacks or kids that signed early and, whatever D1 said, hey, you didn't develop enough, go play JUCO for 2 years and we'll reassess.
Yeah. Well, and you hit it on the head there. And, now, heck, the talent level at the NAIA, you're seeing more of those Division I's at the NAIA level. And, but anyways, I think for kids, when kids and parents, when you're, first of all, parents, don't forget it's your kid's decision. I think you need to let your son go through the process. At some point, I always say this, whenever I did camps, I always did a parent session to talk about recruiting. And, parents, you can't tell your kids where to go. It's their decision, but you need to be very prepared. At some point, your son's going to come to you. And dads, unfortunately, a lot of times they go to the mother and say, hey, what do you think here about this school and about my decision? But I would also tell everybody that I've been at the Division I level. I've been, the Missouri Valley Conference with Creighton University, gone to the World Series, Big Ten. Now I'm at the NAIA level. There's great baseball everywhere, and there's a place for your son to play. But really put them in a position they can be successful. We have the JV program, which is huge for these kids. They can come in right away, and they're going to play in a bunch of games in the fall, inter squads, and that's a great opportunity for them to be able to develop. Now, every year I've got 2 or 3 kids that get through the fall and they decide that they're not going to play baseball anymore. They had their chance, but I've also got some kids that have been 4-year JV guys. Find a place that you're going to have a chance to play early on. It's hard for a freshman to come in and play for me right now just because we're so old and so talented. But what a neat situation to be able to come in and play with some Division I players, practice with them on a regular basis, watch their work ethic, and then be a JV guy for 2 years, and then hopefully be a varsity guy as a junior. We're not going to sugarcoat anything. We're going to let you know what it's like, but you want to find a program that you're going to be able to play early on. That was the hardest thing at a Division I school. You bring in these good freshmen, they don't get an opportunity to play that much unless they're extremely talented. So that's why summer ball was so important for the freshmen to be able to make strides to be ready to play as sophomores. Here we've got the JV program that allows them to play. So look at the opportunities to play early in their career if it's a JV program, and go watch practice. We can watch games, but I have these college coaches that always call and say, hey, I got this guy that can play for you. And I said, well, when's the last time you watched us play or came to a practice? My practices are always open, and see the talent level that a team has. I think it's important to see how a coach interacts with his players. It's really easy. I'll never forget when I became a head coach, I changed. I didn't mean to change. I was a great assistant. I was a great listener. I've got what I call my board of directors, the people that I take things from, and my mother was an incredible listener. And so that's something I was very good as an assistant. When I became a head coach, all of a sudden I felt like I had to have the answer for our players. And, and so all of a sudden, some of the guys, when I was a young head coach, said, Coach Dahm's changed from when he recruited us. And I did, and I didn't mean to. But anyways, when you're at practice, see how the coach interacts with the players, and how they respond to them. See how the assistant coach does things. see how the pitching coach, if you're a pitcher, you can learn a lot from watching practice. And most practices are open and call and just go watch. I think you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot as a coach. You can learn a lot as a parent. You can learn a lot. Not that parents can go watch their kids, but I mean in the recruiting process. But you can learn a lot to see if you're going to fit into that program.
It's a lot of coaches when you sit down and have that meeting in your office and you're trying to recruit a kid. That's not always the guy, and it's not a bad thing, but it's not always the guy you're going to get on the field, right? Like, you have some guys that they're the greatest in the world in the office. They're going to tell you what you want to hear, and then when you get there and you're like, this is not the guy that I want. But then there's also guys that are off the field. They're amazing. They're nice, but they're really they're hard on you in practice and on the field. But it comes from a place of they want you to be better, and they love you, so they're not gonna see you mess up and not address it. You know what I mean? And it's tough to sometimes get a gauge on that, but it goes with the same thing. Like I tell our guys, if you're in heated talks with this, two schools, and you can go to their camp on campus, and they do it where you can have an overnight and you can stay with the team, take that chance or take that opportunity, because you're then able to have a conversation with the current guys and ask questions that either you're not going to ask the head coach or you're going to get a straight up answer. And then you can gauge how the team is, how the morale is, how they feel about their head coach. They might tell you sucks to practice for him, but at the end of the day, I'll run through a brick. It was like my high school coach. When I was in high school, I hated him. I just got engaged 2 weeks ago, and back at home, he was the one that he took the pictures for us, and it was it was a surprise because I've just had that relationship with him since I graduated, and I went back and coached Legion with him. I realized why he was the way he was, and I was young and I could never see it. Like it was just like, oh, coach hates me, doesn't want me to succeed, but like you get on the other side of it, you're like, oh, he actually loves baseball and he loves his team and all that. So I always tell the guys, like, get as much information before you make your decision as you can, because obviously the transfer portal is easy, but it's hard on everybody when you have to transfer. You got to go through that whole process again. And then the school that you're leaving has to find somebody to replace you. The school you're going to, you're probably going to kick out someone else's spot, and all that. So that's
make your decision based on a 4-year decision, not just on a year decision. The thing I used to tell people is, choose a school where if you decide not to play baseball, you're still going to feel comfortable. And that's one of the things I've seen here at Mount Mercy is, a lot of my kids, if they decide that, hey, it's time to focus on my education and life after baseball, which is very important, a lot of them stay here. And that's something I'm very impressed with. It's, we're 20 minutes from the University of Iowa, so they can still have that environment on the weekends and have fun. But, that's something, if you're basing your decision, try to find a school that you would be comfortable at, even without the baseball. And that's hard at some smaller schools, but it's a good thing to work off of. And you talk about different type of personalities. I was a young head coach, as I told you, when I was at Creighton. Had some young assistant coaches. My first assistant was Brian O'Connor, who's going in the Hall of Fame right now. He's a head coach at Virginia. I'm going to be going down. He's getting inducted in the ABCA Hall of Fame, and kind of joked. I said, I thought that was for old guys. And he goes, I guess we're getting old, coach. But I had Brian, I had Elvis Dominguez, who has been the head coach at Bradley University for a long time. And then they moved on. And then I went a little different route. I had young assistants. I need to get some guys with some experience. And Ed Service, who's still the current head coach at Creighton University, he came in with me, and he was older, and he had been a head coach at Viterbo and St. Mary's, and he was assistant at Iowa State. I need somebody that could help me in a couple different areas. I was looking at the mental game, and I was looking at some practice organization stuff, and Ed ended up being great. And of course, Scott was my college roommate. Ed was his uncle. And then I brought in a pitching coach, Bill Olson. I don't know if you remember Greg Olson, who pitched at Auburn, was a closer in the big leagues for Baltimore, for the Orioles. I
Yeah.
brought in his dad, who was already a Hall of Fame coach, high school coach, and he helped me. So, I went to those older guys. Well, they're old school. They wouldn't talk to the guys. They'd push them. They were hard-nosed guys compared to the Jim Hendry, who was, always communicating with the players. So I've seen the different, coaches, and Ed Service is one of the most successful head coaches right now at the D1 level. But I'll tell him, I said, hey, that guy's not going to be able to, he's going to struggle playing for you because he's more of the old school. I've had assistants. I've had probably about 4 or 5 assistants go there to work for him. And I'll only send them certain ones because I know the mentality that he has as a head coach. And so not only is it for players, it's for if you're going to go be an assistant for him, you got to have the right mind frame and understand he's the greatest baseball mind I've been around, but he's old school. So it's all about work. And, so it's the same thing, just like the recruiting process.
It's interesting how the players have changed and the coaches as well. Like the younger generation of coaches are starting to get to away from the old school where it was just like you said, the old school guys are just going to push and push and push, and it's my way or the highway. And now it's like you're always being questioned.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had done that 30, 40 years ago where you questioned your head coach, it would have been like, that's a death sentence, right? And now it's like, there's always asking why. And
it's the why era. It's the why era.
Uh-huh. And I don't think both can be successful, right? Like both, I think at the end of the day, the most important thing is the players, you develop that relationship with the players, because if you have that relationship with them, even though a kid maybe isn't always receptive to you getting on them, if you do get on them and you have a great relationship with them,
exactly,
they understand, okay, and I'm sure you've done it, and I've done it as well, where maybe you've had a bad day as a coach, and you go to practice and one kid does, I don't know, a very small thing, and you just ream him.
Yep.
And then an hour later, it's like, hey man, look, I'm sorry. What you did was wrong, but it didn't deserve me, getting on you the way I did. And if you've got a great relationship with your team, and they'll understand you're human and they'll forgive you, and you move past that.
And you know what? I think one of the things is I've gotten older and softer. I'll say sorry to guys. I'll say, hey, I made a mistake. And I apologize. I jumped on this guy. I was wrong. And I think people see me being a lot more vulnerable now as an older coach than that when I was a young guy. And, and I think that's important. Again, my priorities, we do things here at Mount Mercy for our players to benefit them. I mean, I have guest speakers come in all off season to speak to our guys about different type of jobs. And, it's not just about baseball here. We want to develop you as a baseball player for sure, but we want to develop you as a young man and get you ready for the real world. And it's been fun. And again, I do that with my assistant coaches. I throw them to the fire. Jim Hendry, when I was a young guy, he said, act like you're the head coach. And, if he's not there, he goes, just stay busy, act like you're the head coach. And, Chico will tell you, I think, sometimes my assistants get frustrated because I make them figure things out. And that's the way. And if you're going to be accountable, if you're just going to sit around and do nothing, I know you're probably not going to be a good coach, but if you take the bull by the horns, and you build those relationships with the kids and you get the right recruits, those are the ones that are going to be successful. And, I'm proud. I've got a young fellow, Devin Fujioka, that, was on my staff for a while. He wanted to become a Division I coach. His goal is to coach in Hawaii. He's from Hawaii. And
that's awesome.
I hired him. And, back probably about 6 years ago when they thought they were going to get the third head coach or third assistant at the Division I level. He had an opportunity to go out and be the volunteer coach at Northern Colorado. He went out and visited, and he told me, "Hey, coach, I'm not going to do it." Well, I fired him. I said, "Nope, you got to go. You got to go, because if you want to be a Division I coach, you've got to have on your resume that you coached at the Division I level." He was gone for a year, and then I got a full-time coach, so I brought him back. Plus, the third assistant didn't go through. But now he's a hitting instructor for the Seattle Mariners in the minor leagues, and very proud of him. But he paid his dues here. He had to learn how to coach and how to communicate, and he's been very successful. And so it's fun watching not only the student athletes, but the coaches grow and go on and have success also.
I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I'm 33 and I started coaching college when I was 24.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I started coaching actually when I was 19.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first summer team I coached.
Yeah.
Just looking back in the 14 years that I've done it, how much I've changed
Mm-hmm.
and grown. And you look back on things that you've done or how you yelled at a kid or treated a kid, whatever. And you kind of cringe like, oh my gosh, like I was probably miserable to play for, and then you just, I mean, as you get older, you get wiser, man. I mean,
you do, but you're always learning. We had a tremendous team here last year, and we had won 21 out of 23 games, I believe, and on a roll, leading the league, and getting ready to crack in the top 20. And also, we got devastated by injuries, and we lost 6 guys. My mother-in-law passed away suddenly. Our shortstop's dad passed away a week later. It's just, we had a lot of adversity, and I'm proud of our guys, how we handled it. But there's certain things that happen there, handling the roster and who's going to be on the trout. I'm constantly learning and developing as a head coach still, even though I'm 56 years old. I try to take, one of the things is I've got a lot of friends in baseball. I've been bit in the butt a little bit because I have a lot of my former assistant or former players' kids come play for me, or my former teammates' kids come play for me. It's great for a while, but a couple times it's burned me a little bit because they're not playing as much as they need to, and but still it's still about helping the kids out and giving them opportunities.
So with, I guess, backtracking a little bit, your JV program, you play all your games in the fall, I think is genius.
Mm-hmm.
Do you bring that whole team back in the spring and you practice all spring?
So what we do, we got our first couple of years of having the JV team. We played some games in the fall, and then we were going to play a bunch of games in the springtime. And we have a turf field here, which is our facilities are off. I have better facilities here when I was at Creighton or Iowa. Now they've upgraded their facilities, of course, but anyways, but for 2 years in a row, we just had a lot of rain and bad cold weather where we were having a hard time getting our varsity games in, and we ended up only playing 2 JV games in the spring. So that's what made us change, and it's worked out very well. The kids come in, they play in the fall. We have a rule now that if you play in less than 20% of your games, you can still redshirt. So we can have the kids play in 10 games in the fall and still get a red, or they don't call it redshirting, but not use a year of eligibility. So that's what we basically do now, is play 10 games. What we do with the true JV kids, and they're going to continue to lift weights all the way through our J term, and then in February they'll start practicing again and do some inter squad games, and then the tweener guys, the swing guys, will be practicing with us. So I'll have probably 3 or 4 freshmen practicing with the varsity, right away in January. But then with those JV kids, they'll start practicing with our GA, with my other pitching coaches. They'll be getting ready, and they'll play some inter squad games in the spring. And then if they're willing to go over the 10 games, I have some other, my varsity guys, we're too deep everywhere right now. So I'm going to play some reserve games that are our JV games, but with some of our varsity guys and then some of those JV guys. So we try to keep them busy. Retention's still very important to me. That's something I was always very proud of. Retention doesn't really exist in college athletics very much anymore. But because of the way with the change, we've done a good job of keeping our guys in the program and keeping kids happy. And they see that they're getting development. And my assistant coaches do a great job of working with the younger guys. And I think that's a great way for them to learn and great way to get better. Well, I actually have my pitching coach right now is Blake Willenborg, who really Chico took underneath his wing when Chico was here, and Blake did the same thing you did, where he started coaching at the high school level as when he was in college. And then he went to Independence High School as a pitching coach when Chico became the head coach there, and he still coaches there. And now he's my full-time pitching coach, and he's going to have some options of either going, he could stay at the high school level, college level, but he's really putting a resume together to be able to potentially even go to professional baseball as a coach if he wants to. So we're very fortunate to have him. Chico is had a huge role in developing Blake and getting him involved in drive line and a lot of other things.
So that's actually a good transition to something else that comes up a lot. And drive line, obviously weighted balls, and you talk about like how much the game has changed in your time. Weighted balls, the metric part of the game, and how important that is now with all the technology we have. Where are you at personally as a head coach, 56-year-old head coach? Because my high school coach, the one that I seen a couple weeks ago, I have an argument with him every time I'm back home about swing plane, and he's like, I just don't understand why we are developing baseball players now that can't even hit a backside single and score a run from third less than 2 outs. Nobody knows how to bunt, and he refuses to buy it. He's going to be in the Coaches Hall of Fame in Ohio. We won 2 state championships together, and a ton of success, but he hates it. Where are you at? How have you changed?
Well, I think I've had to change. The most important thing we realize is as coaches, we want to develop our guys, but we still want to win games. We need to win games. You got the hitting instructors out there that are trying to get the velocity, throw as hard as you can and elevate the ball, dinger, hitting home runs. Who cares? Strikeouts are good. That's not me. But I think there's a lot of good stuff in everything that's going on as far as the arm care, as far as the weighted balls. Number one, I still think you need rest. I just spoke to our team doctor, Dr. White. He's seeing 12 and 13-year-old kids that need to have Tommy John and shoulder surgery. And, because these kids aren't taking any time off. And you got people that are trying to have them train year round so that they make money. Rest is still a big thing for the arm. And so I bought into a lot of the new stuff. I tell my pitching coach, I tell my hitting coach, I said, we're going to have some basic things that we are going to do that you believe in and I believe in. And then some guys are going to come in here and do some different things, but as long as they're doing what we want them to do, because they've been successful under their own pitching coach or their own hitting coach. So we give them a program that we believe in. Yes, there's weighted balls and the arm care and hip mobility and moving better and everything implemented into our strength and conditioning program. Now, I'm not a big launch angle guy, but a lot of the stuff with launch angles is body movements. And I love guys that hit the ball hard, but I got to win games. And when the wind's blowing in here 30 miles per hour and it's 45 degrees, guess what? Launch angle don't do me any good. And I told my players, we were very talented offensively last year, and we got away from playing winning baseball. playing championship baseball and allowing our guys just to swing away a little bit too much. So I'm old school, but there's a lot of good stuff out there that these kids have been doing now for the last 4, 5, 6 years. So I can't tell them that they're wrong. We just try to give them a scope. Hey, here's what you got to do. If you want to do some stuff outside, I want you to, or different than what the pitching coach is doing, I want to make sure that you guys communicate, make sure you're not doing anything to hurt yourself. We'll call Dr. White. And if we have some questions, and call our team doctor and say, hey, what do you think about this? So we just want, health is the number one thing. You can't make the club in the tub. It's pretty hard to win baseball games if you're not playing. So you need to be smart. More's not always better. And so I see some things, and what some of these guys are saying on YouTube, I'm like, holy cow. I don't follow it that much, so I don't get too upset about it. I just see some stuff on I'm old school. I don't have Twitter, all that stuff. So there's some good stuff, but you got to figure out what's going to make you be best for you. When I talk about hitting now, I always go to Joey Votto. Back about 3 years, I think it was 3 years ago in spring training. Call up Joey Votto. He's talking to people about, hey, all the guys in the big leagues right now learned how to control their barrel, and they could hit the ball anywhere that they wanted to go. And then after they made it to professional baseball and to the big leagues, that's when they tweaked their swing to learn how to elevate the ball and beat the shift. And things are starting to come back around now. So I think Joey Votto has it right, where you have to learn to control that barrel and be able to hit the ball where you can. He said this: any big leaguer, if you told them to hit the ball to right field, they could do it. They could hit it right at the sign in the outfield. And I'm a big believer of that. And then now look at Joey Votto the last year or two. His last year or two, he started hitting more power because he tweaked his swing in order to do that. So play winning baseball. I think here's the biggest thing: is a lot of those guys that you learn pitching lessons from, hitting lessons, they're not getting paid to win. They're getting paid for you to throw the ball harder or hit the ball harder. Well, I see guys that are throwing 93, 94, 95. Then I tell my pitching coach, hey, how many bases on balls did he have last year? Well, oh, geez, he walked 45 guys in 20 innings. I said, yeah, I don't want that. That's not going to win games for us. Yeah, he's throwing hard, but he can't throw strikes.
Yeah.
So
Also,
there's a give and take, and free bases, that's a killer from a defensive standpoint. And strikeouts aren't good. I don't know how anyone could ever say strikeouts are good. So
you're also playing baseball in 45-degree weather with
Exactly.
45-mile-an-hour winds. I don't want to sit and watch a walk fest there anyways either. So
exactly.
I think a couple episodes ago I had Sam Tinkham on from Holy Cross, and one of the things that he wanted to talk about was game day development. And I thought it was amazing because now I've coached travel ball, which there's some perks of travel ball. I went into a Division III weekend series. It was game 3. I was just stopped by, one of my buddies was there. It was an hour south, and I came in like the 5th inning, and it was electric, like a Division III game. The one coach did a fake bunt slash, and then the next inning there was a suicide squeeze, and it was 2 very good D3 teams, and the atmosphere was like, oh my God, this is what makes me miss college baseball, whereas summer ball is very lax, and it's kind of, I don't want to say selfish, but a lot of it is how are your metrics, how fast are you throwing that day, and where I'm going with this is that stuff's more important in the summer, and you lose sight of being able to do all the small things that win or lose you a game. Take the extra 90 feet, realizing that a pitcher is a 1-7 to the plate because he's trying to throw as hard as he can every time, and a team is just eating on the bases, just eating. And because with his pitching coach, he's like you said, he's only been concerned with throwing harder, which matters, right? Like
Without a doubt.
the harder you throw, the harder it is to hit.
Yeah. You
If
get
you
away
could,
with mistakes.
if you
The
can,
harder you throw, the more mistakes you can get
yep.
away with.
And it's
So
just now we're at the, like you said, we're probably somewhere in the middle now, where as soon as we had this revelation of, oh, this is how our body works, we need to start trending like this, and then it went all the way over here where it was like all exit velo, all launch angle, and we went so far this way, and then I think we started producing baseball players. It was like, oh, these guys are lab rats, like they're 5 o'clock hitters, they can't hit in a
yeah.
game,
And
and then
that was Jim Hendry's favorite line. He said 4 o'clock hitter for a 6 o'clock game. So
and now we're probably coming back to, we need to train both. Like we have to have kids that know how to run a double cut, that know how to, when they're down 0-2, how to hit a ball backside to score a runner from third, and they learn about barrel control and all that stuff. But also, that same kid, when he has a 2-0 fastball, he needs to have enough exit velocity and whatnot. When he gets that 2-0 fastball down the middle, we got to swing to do damage, because we know that's how we create more runs.
yeah,
It's somewhere in the middle, and it's
so
you have to practice more, essentially.
yeah. So the interesting thing is, a lot of people, I've been doing this long enough now that I was around, and I was on the College World Series board of directors at Creighton, where I didn't miss a College World Series game for 13 years. And there was the -5 bats. You probably I don't even know if you knew about this, Shep, but there was, the -5
Yeah.
bat, where it was a trampoline effect, and the home runs, and I mean, the championship game between who was it?
It's dangerous, is what it was.
Yeah. Oh, it really was. But the interesting thing to me is, so I was there watching this, and offense was going off the charts. And the thing is at that time, it's very similar to launch angle, where people didn't want to bunt all that often, because why take the bat out of your hands when guys are hitting 25, 30 home runs a year? But you know what? It was interesting watching USC beat LSU, because they were able to lay down the bunt, or and move runners late in the game to generate some offense. And more importantly, is the other team couldn't defend it. So in the College World Series, teams win because they're able to lay down a bunt, and the other team that can't defend it. They throw the ball down the line, and a guy ends up at second and third, and a base hit. They score 2 runs, and so that's very similar to the launch angle era. The short game was still important when you're trying to win a championship. Just like in Major League Baseball, all of a sudden they bunt in the playoffs. They didn't bunt in the regular season, but why do you bunt in the playoffs all of a sudden? Because you know what, you're playing for that one win, and the players are willing to do it because they want to win a championship. That's going to make them more money during the year. They want to drive in runs and improve their stats so they can make more money that way. So there's a comparison between the -5 bats, the trampoline effect, to launch angle. But when I was at the College World Series, I saw teams that you still had to execute the bunt game, and you still had to defend the bunt game if you were going to win a championship.
We run a winter hitting clinic right now with our organization, two days a week, about hour and a half per session. Kids sign up and they come, and we do the weighted bat training, and we have the Rapsodos and stuff. Our 13-year-olds, it's 13 through 17. Our 13-year-olds still use the -5. So when we're getting all of their data, we have 13-year-olds that hit it exponentially faster than, or harder than, our 15, 16-year-olds because of the -5. And I mean, when you think of it, it's 2 ounces, right? It shouldn't make that much of a difference. But we have 13-year-olds that are hitting with, like, I think I was looking at the leaderboard the other day. I want to say like 89 was our highest from a 13-year-old. And then when he moves up and goes -3, it will drop down some. But just I can't imagine grown men swinging -5. And I mean, my first year in college was still the BESR bats, and then my second year was we switched to BB Core,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that it was still -3, but just that change, seeing the difference in the how far the ball would go and all that. I mean, I can't imagine seeing like USC and Texas hitters swing a -5.
No, it was fun to watch. But it did get a little carried away. The scores when you're in a national championship game and it's 21-18 or whatever, that's when you got a problem. And they had to do something, and they react. I mean, just like the baseballs and professional baseball, a lot of people don't realize how much harder the baseball is at the major league level compared to at the college level. If you get a professional baseball, that thing's like hitting a golf ball. It's a lot harder than a college ball. So the exit velocity is going to be much greater. Back in the day, the bigger seams on the college ball, there's so many things that play into it. But coaches, for me personally, getting back to how you coach, I've got to coach to win games in the North. That's my job. I want to be able to win games if it's warm out and the wind's blowing out, or if the wind's blowing in and it's 45 degrees. If you can win when the wind's blowing in 45 degrees, guess what? You probably know how to do the little things, move the baseball when you're facing a number one starter who's throwing 93 to 95 with the slider, that you got to find a way to manufacture some runs. We'll still take the home run without a doubt. But if you can do that, and we call it the staying hack here, 2 strikes, you're giving up for the Mustang. So it's a staying hack. When I was at Iowa, it was a hawk hack. But Dave Van Horn, when he got to University of Nebraska, I was still the head coach at Creighton, and we had some battles. And they always talked about their B hack. Well, that was the team hack where you're giving in with 2 strikes, and boy, they bought into it, and they had a team. They were a pain to play because they just fouled. They'd wear a pitching staff out in a 3-game series. And so I'm still a big believer in guys, you got to coach to what your facility's like, what the weather's like. And I think that's very, very important. Hey, I want guys that hit home runs. Our 91 team, we hit 365 as a team, led the country in hitting. And we believe in that. Get big, strong, athletic guys that can run. That's what we got here now. But I'm not saying we're going to hit 365, but you can win in a lot of different ways.
That's a good on base percentage for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Let alone a batting average. It's Did you ever run into Rob Smith when you were?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
at
Rob.
Creighton?
Well, Rob actually went to Creighton right after. When I went to Iowa, Rob ended up being Ed Service's first pitching coach, and he did a really good job. And Rob was at Purdue. Actually, let me take that back. Rob wasn't his first pitching coach. He might have been his second, but because I coached against Rob when he was at Purdue, and then he was the pitching coach at Creighton before he went to Ohio as the head coach.
Now he's retired in Arizona.
Yeah, he figured it out, man. He was making all that money on those camps.
Bro, I mean, I've worked. I don't even want to know the number of camps, CCSC camps that I've worked, and I actually still, even though I'm not coaching in college, I still direct the big ones.
Yeah.
One of my best friends from college, we got him the job. Our GA when we were in college was Ryan Rummick, who coached with Rob at Ohio and was at Dayton. And we kind of got our buddy the job at CCSC of organizing all of that. Mm-hmm. So when they have big camps, I still go direct the camps where there's 200 plus kids.
Well, I loved Rob because I'd have a volunteer coach at Iowa
making loads.
Oh, and Chris Malzewski. I don't know if you ever ran across him. I'd have Chris. Rob trusted him, where he'd have him be the top guy at all the different camps. So I had my volunteer coaches back in the day make money off of Rob's camps, and they'd usually do about 4 or 5 of them throughout the Midwest for him. So Rob did some great things. He figured it out. he lives in that gated community and plays a lot of golf now. So
and it's Arizona. It's Arizona golf. It's not cheap and it's very nice. So
yes,
no, he definitely figured it out. And he's done wonders for assistant coaches all across the country.
Well,
Um,
especially when there's so many volunteer coaches, and he went about it the right way. And I think one of the biggest things, and this is something very important in the recruiting process, go to camps where you're going to get something out of it. I had a lot of people. I really started the camps where we would do a 2-day camp, and we would play games. We would evaluate. We'd start out with evaluation. We'd also teach. I think is very important when you got kids coming on campus. I bring other Division I coaches, Division II, Division III, and junior college and NAIA coaches, because I'd have 120 kids at my camp. I want those kids. I might recruit 2 or 3 of those kids to Iowa,
yep.
So I don't want them to waste their money. So go to those camps where there's a lot of schools, all the different levels are going to be there to see you. And again, now you get to see how those coaches handle themselves during the camp. And I always did a recruiting part where we talked about recruiting and what to look for and the clearinghouse, and brought in my academic counselor to talk about here's what you need to be eligible at the Division I level. If you go to a junior college, here's what you need to do to get your AA degree. So we wanted it to be getting some. It's not just paying out. I thought Rob did a pretty good job of that with this camps. We had a lot of different coaches from different levels, helped them, and a lot of those kids got opportunities to go play at the college level. But I highly recommend still, if you have a certain amount of schools that you're looking at, go to their camps on campus and see what it's like, and a lot of their players will be there. So I think that's always a good way in the recruiting part to get seen.
Yeah, and the camps that have 15, 20 schools of all the different levels,
Mhm.
they you're just casting a bigger net, right? Because a lot of kids, they don't even know, people will tell them what level they probably can play at. Sometimes you need to hear it from somebody that's not,
Yeah.
not so close to you, because you might not want to believe it. And a lot of kids, this is just kind of the bluntness in me, but they'll ask me about if they're a Division I player or whatnot, and it'll be late in their junior year, early in their, that summer going to their senior year. And I'll say, have you heard from any Division I's? They're like, no, not yet. I'm like, well, then you're not a Division I player.
Yeah,
Even though I know based on like their talent level, their metrics, it's like if you're a Division I guy, you're going to hear ahead of time. And if you haven't heard anything, Division IIs, NAIAs, D3s, they're going to start recruiting that summer going into your senior year, whereas Division I's are going to recruit a little earlier, and you're going to hear something. If you're now, there's late bloomers and there's exceptions all the time, but and that's
but
the hard.
the late bloomers, they have Division I tools already. They're
Yes,
that it's
yes.
it's coming. It's coming. So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
So I've been instructed I need to ask you about your win the day story.
Yeah. Well, that's what one of the things I think is a program, you always want to have your core values. And as a young head coach, I bounced around a lot with a lot of different things, and unfortunately, I came across Win the Day because I had a young fellow by the name of Austin Flash Schrader. He was a 14-year-old boy that we hung around with his parents, Craig and Stacy Schrader. And Austin was this good-looking kid that was the best athlete, and his nickname was Flash because he was so fast, and just a great family. And the dad coached every sport for him as he came up, and the dad's a real motivational guy. Talks, he's a great speaker. Well, the team that he was coaching was actually a feeder program for a high school, especially in the baseball side of it. So all of a sudden they got to the point where they're one of the top teams in the state, but they can't beat those teams that recruit everybody. And anyways, so he always came up with a saying, it was win the day, because Oregon football at that time, Chip Kelly, had the saying win the day. So he had a whole bunch of different things that he'd do. And then it finally came down to he realized, hey, I've got to make it simple. And he used to have 10 things on the whiteboard for every game that he had, and then he realized I got to keep it simple. So he went with win the day because that's what his son loved, Oregon football, excuse me. And then he had three things below it: attitude, effort, and shake and bake. And the shake and bake meant have fun, Talladega Nights. So as soon as you say shake and bake, you started to laugh. That's why, because I could have said, attitude, effort, and have fun. Nobody smiles when you say have fun, but you say shake and bake and everybody gets a grin. So to speed up the process a little bit, unfortunately, Austin Flash Schrader ended up getting cancer.
Oh wow.
And it was tough one. And anyways, so Win the Day went from being something all about athletics to putting things in perspective about how you need to treat every single day, and you can control your attitude. And Austin, he changed people in Eastern Iowa. To this day, they're still they've raised hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars with the Fight for Flash Foundation because of the attitude that Flash had. And then Flash asked his parents to keep this up even after he was gone. And Jimmy Chico was part of about 2 weeks before Austin passed away. I've got a picture right here actually with Austin, and Chico's in it. I got it hanging here. I'm going to pull it down here. Hold on one sec. Sorry about that.
No, you're all right.
Anyways, I got the picture here, and Chico's in here. This is a picture of our team with Austin Flash Schrader a couple of weeks before he passed away. But we have the Fight for Flash shirts on, which I call perspective shirts. That meant something different to me because I was so close to Flash. But all of our players put initials on the shirt of someone that passed away or somebody that meant a lot to them. And, I learned from Austin after 20 years of being a head coach. I learned that, hey, if you win the day in school, socially, on the baseball field, if you win the day, you're going to have a pretty good day. And it's really about the process. And instead of, we talk about loyalty, trust, and all those things, and that's still very important. But my guys now, it's strictly we go off, win the day. And, if you can do that, you can be successful. I've got, I believe, 4 kids that have gone through the program here that actually have tattooed win the day on their body somewhere. And I owe it to a 14-year-old boy that I learned from that, you can control your attitude. And that's why Craig Schrader put attitude number 1, because you're not going to be able to give a great effort. You're not going to have fun and shake and bake if it wasn't for, your attitude. So I learned from a 14-year-old boy, and he's still to this day making a difference throughout Eastern Iowa and making a difference with our program. And, it's, think about it, win the day, you got a pretty good day, and it's, Brian Kane, I had him come speak to me all the time at Iowa, and he was talking about what's important now. So that kind of fits in with the win the day there also. And we live by it here. I've got win the day all over the place. And again, I'm sure Jimmy will remember a couple, or I call Chico Jimmy. Chico remember that whenever we had a tough day, what we would talk about Flash. Our first meeting every year, Stacy and Craig Schrader, Austin's parents, come up and speak to our players about what win the day means, because that's the number one thing. It's our number one thing as far as our identity as a program. We're going to do the things the right way. And it's not just about winning baseball. It's about doing things, winning in life. And if you can do that, you're going to be pretty successful.
Sports are amazing, aren't they? What they can do for a person or a team, and the effect that they can have, and how they can, change an individual's life and just give people a whole new outlook. And it's, you really do see the light bulb go off in a young man's life when he finally gets that perspective and he finally realizes, holy crap, like I've been going about this the wrong way,
Yeah.
and I, you know, I tell a lot of the kids that I coach, we will never have an issue, me and you, if you control the things you can control.
Yeah.
And you can always control your effort. You can always control your attitude. You can't control the umpire. You can't control strike zone. You can't control making a perfect pitch and a kid hits it. You can control how you react. And if you can control all those things, everything else, I firmly believe, will take care of itself.
Yeah.
And if it takes care of itself that we lose that day, then that happens. But you left it all out on the field, and I mean, like stories like that that just make you choke up because you've been through so much as a coach, and it hits home, and you remember the guy, like you remember how it affected people and how you're still changing lives with stories like that.
Well, that's why, Shep, right away, you had the lightning bolt behind you. That's why it stuck out to me. My Austin Flash Schrader, that's what my daughter's got, tattooed lightning bolt because of Flash. That was his nickname. That, you want to know a small world. Then all of a sudden, 2 years ago, I get a transfer from Wichita State. Very first meeting, Ryan Schooley's in there, and as Craig Schrader is telling the story, he looks at Ryan Schooley and says, and Ryan's dad is the one that named him Flash. So, I mean, I'm like, what? I never knew that before, and it was, all the stories. And real quick, that picture I showed you, we had brand new jerseys that we wore, and we had those for the fundraiser or leadoff dinner, and we were wearing them. And as I was introducing Flash, I said, we got brand new jerseys, but our favorite shirts that we have are our batting practice shirts, and all of our guys took their jerseys off, and our guys were wearing the Fight with Flash shirts, and he started smiling and crying. And I think that meant a lot to our players. It meant a lot to Flash, and to this day we've got Win the Day on our jerseys, on the back of our jerseys. Every practice shirt we have, everything has Win the Day on it. And then also we've gotten big in the mental health side of it too. That's been such a big issue nowadays. We've got our Mustang with the mental health ribbon, and you know what? With mental health, if you can control your attitude and be positive and be there for other people, and we tie everything into Win the Day. So it's been a great life lesson I learned from a 14-year-old kid that made a huge impact, and his parents are best friends with me to this day, and his brother came and played for us, and so it's a neat story. But I always feel good when I see a Flash sign behind somebody.
It was meant to be, man. This podcast right today, and the mental health side of it. I love that you bring awareness to your team, and it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay to have a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest thing is the communication aspect of it. Like we talked before, when you may come and you may have a bad day prior to baseball, and some days that baseball practice is going to turn it around, and some days as a coach you're going to take it out on your team that didn't deserve it because you've had a bad day. And therapy was the best thing that I ever did. I don't know if you've ever done therapy of any sorts, but I know after I got divorced, and after something happened a couple years ago that was life altering, there was a 2-week stretch I didn't get out of bed, and
it's hard.
I had to go to therapy, and I have recommended therapy to so many of my friends. As males, it's hard enough for us to talk about our feelings, and learn how to talk about what's going on or even say something is going on. I mean, it's so much as the old school feeling is just stuff it. You're okay.
Yeah.
You know,
Suck it up. Be
yeah.
tough.
But
Yeah.
it
Well, and it goes back, Shep, it goes back to what I talked about on my board of directors. My mother, she listened. And as a coach right now, we need to listen. There's red flags out there. We had a player that missed hitting and wasn't feeling good. And, the things that cross my mind now when kids miss practice is the first thing's not screaming and yelling at them. The first thing is, hey, you okay? Is there
Mhm.
anything I can help you with? Because man, there's a lot of pressure on these kids nowadays with everything they've gone through with COVID and just everything out there. And so I think that's important as a coach, as a parent, that you do it's real mental health. I would challenge you, Shep. I've got one of my former players at Iowa. He was my assistant coach for a long time. I actually said his name already, Chris Malzewski. He knew Rob Smith really well. He was involved in a very tragic incident on the 4th of July. He was running the parade in Highland Park when they had the mass shooting.
Oh my
I don't know
gosh.
if people were killed, and it was terrible. And he was running it, and he had to be in the middle of it and going around, and it really affected him. And my good friend and my former assistant, Ryan Brownlee, who now is the number 2 guy at the ABCA, called me and him called him. I didn't realize this, but I shot him a text 30 minutes after I heard about the shooting. And Chris came here and talked to our players the other day, and Ryan Brownlee actually got him a number of Todd Blyleven's Todd Blyleven, who was Bert Blyleven's son. He was in the mass shooting in Las Vegas, and so Todd Blyleven was so important to Chris because he knew what he was going through and everything else. Well, they've started it's called Walking Tall Foundation, and it's about mental health, and it's about helping kids, and it's about letting people know it's okay to not be okay. And so he came and spoke to our team, and we've got our Walking Tall shirts. Now we're still all about win the day, but through Chris coming and talking to our guys about vulnerability, one of the things we're going to do is, if we see a guy struggling a little bit, we're going to be like, hey, walk tall. We're going to be there for you if you need anything. And I think Chris would be tremendous on your podcast. He's a baseball guy, but he's about the mental health, and just a very gifted young man that came and spoke to our guys. I'm going to bring him back for our leadoff dinner. He's gonna be our auctioneer. So, but he's gonna be here. I just want him to be around our guys because they'll open up to him
Yeah.
and talk to him. And our guys have pressure of school, finals, girlfriends, parents, money. There's so many different performing baseball wise, not being on varsity. There's so many different things that these kids react differently to. Chris was a mass shooting. Now, some of my players is they're struggling in school. Some guys are something happened at home. But I think as coaches, as teammates, if you walk tall and if you're there for other people, man, it's amazing what you can do to help kids. And that's really what we are as coaches. We're like teachers. We're there to help kids and develop them. And so I'll give you Chris Malzewski's information.
I'd
I
love
think
to have
he'd
him
be
on.
tremendous. I think he'd be tremendous for you guys.
I know this is a recruiting and baseball podcast, but like you said, at the end of the day, I want to help young men,
Yeah.
whatever that may be, get to where they're going, and being in a mass shooting, you may look at it from a 3,000 foot view and say, well, that's way bigger than
Yep.
how you feel on, just not having a good day. But to that person, the weight of disappointing their dad may be just as big and heavy as being in a mass shooting. And I think that's, we never know what people are going through inside, and we don't know what they're stuffing away and they're not talking about. And just letting kids have a space that they can
Mhm.
get that out, and you never you don't want to look back and think what could I have done differently for this
Yeah.
kid. And I again just firsthand experience of going through the therapy I did. I was, I mean, I, I basically was held hostage
Yeah.
at gunpoint.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into the story, but
Mhm.
it was traumatizing,
Yeah.
and knowing I had to go to therapy. I mean, and for the first 2 weeks, it was the my therapist was like, our goals for today are shower,
Mhm.
walk your dog, and go buy some pre-cooked meals from the store and eat.
Yeah.
Because if I did eat, I was ordering whatever food once a day, barely eating it. I was paying for a dog walking service to come walk my dog while I sat at home in bed because I couldn't get out of bed. And
So, yeah.
they just giving these young men, helping them understand that, giving them the tool to know how to work through those feelings
Mhm.
is everything. Now that you've had therapy sessions and whatnot, now you have the tools to work through that,
Mhm.
and also realize I can't really work through this on my own. I need to get somebody to come help me,
Yeah.
and I need to reach out to somebody. So I think that's like that. I mean, that I would love to have him on,
Yeah.
and
He's,
I would
and
hope.
by the way, you want to talk about, there is not a better recruiter in the country than Chris Malzewski. So he was fantastic. I was disappointed when he got out of coaching, and right now I think he realizes maybe he shouldn't have. But he's got some recruiting stories for you too, by the way. So we ended up signing Blake Hickman. Blake was the number one player, number 2 or 3 player in the state of Illinois out of Simeon High School, and Chris got in with the ACE program and Fletch and all those guys, and ultimately we got Blake Hickman to commit to University of Iowa. He was the first kid from the inner city. We were the first Power Five to offer him and actually get him to come, and Chris was a big part of it. So, but yeah, it's real quick. Just another thing on the mental health side of it. I had a player that didn't show up to practice one day, and my assistant called me and said, "Hey, so and so's not here." And so I called him up and I said, "Hey, you doing okay?" He goes, "I'm sorry, coach, I just can't get out of bed." And come to find out, with COVID, he was short on medication. There's a shortage on some of the medication these kids have been taking or just starting. And he goes, "I couldn't get out of bed." I said, "Well, how how often does that happen?" He said, "Every day." He goes, "But I'm usually able to get out of bed." And I'm like, "Oh my!" And I heard that, and my heart dropped. And that's when you start to realize, kids being late. There's signs, help kids, and so instead of, you mentioned this, instead of screaming and yelling at a kid right away, you pull them aside, say, "Hey, you okay? What's going on? There's something going on." And you find out, and if you ask them that, they'll tell you the truth. "Coach, I overslept,"
Mm-hmm.
or "No, I'm struggling." And so that's our
It goes back to having the relationships with the kids where,
yeah.
sometimes you just ask them the question and you see them just break down instantly. Like
Yeah.
they just needed somebody to ask
Yeah.
if they're okay. They needed to ask, what's going on. And if they trust you and you have a relationship with them, most likely they're going to open up, because most people want to talk about it with someone they trust. And as a coach, you're more than just a coach. Like you said, you're a teacher, you're
Well, that's
a
what
psychologist, psychiatrist. You are sometimes you're a dad, sometimes you're a brother, sometimes you're a best friend. And we wear so many different hats. And it's the best thing about coaching. Sometimes it's hard and it's a struggle, but it's so rewarding in the end when you have guys, and you've been doing it a lot longer than I have, and you've got so many connections, and your coaching tree expands. Guys come back and say, "Thank you. This one conversation that you had with a kid that you may not have thought it was a big deal changed their life." And
Mhm.
that's, I tell kids, if you have opportunity to go play college baseball, wherever that is, go play,
Yeah.
take it. It's gonna do things for you that you never even thought was imaginable. So
To be a part of a team and to be around kids like that, and it's just there's something different about it, and even if you only do it for a year, you've had that opportunity, and it's kind of fun when we had our reunion of our 1991 College World Series team was absolutely amazing. Just the relationships of that Creighton team. But we had one here with our 1992 team here that won a championship at Mount Mercy, and just watching those guys come together. And we're actually building a locker room right now, and I go to alumni and ask for help. Have them buy a locker, and all of a sudden you find out stories that one of the guys bought a locker for a guy that was a senior when he was a freshman, that took him underneath his wing, and that the senior passed away. He bought a locker in his memory because of what he did for him in college, so it's just neat seeing, if you can be a part of a team, it's special. And you know what, and that's the thing for these kids. There's a place for you to play. If it's NAI, Division 3, Division 2, Division 1, even if it's JV, even if it's being a manager. So many of these kids nowadays become a manager, and then they get in the analytics. There's kids in the big leagues right now that never played college baseball, but they're, became the analytics guys. The University of Iowa here has done a fantastic job.
yeah,
Rick Keller, and so Chico's first coach was coaching here, and he got fired. He is now in the dugout working for the New York Yankees. So he got fired from Mount Mercy, and I knew him. I ended up telling him, "Hey, go to Iowa." I started he was just a guy that was ahead of his time in the analytics and the video, and really Chico. The way Chico is right now is because of the coach that he had before me.
Desi.
Understanding the analytics of the game, and breaking down the swing, and I'm telling you right now that Desi played a bigger part in the physical tools for Chico than I did, because of what he learned through those years. And I hope I helped Chico a little bit with the mental side of the game, and look at the game a little bit differently. And that's the best thing about coaching too, is you take something from everybody. All your coaches, you take good, and you learn from the bad, and make sure you don't do the bad also.
I was gonna say, you take the good stuff, but you also take the, okay, I want to make sure I never do that stuff. And it's like you said, it's such a small world. And old Oglethorpe grad that was an assistant coach there my first year, and the guy that runs our program or organization, he was the head coach at Oglethorpe Geo. Sam Breen graduated from Oglethorpe, coached Oglethorpe for 4 years. My first year at Oglethorpe, Sam took a job at Driveline, and now Sam is the pitching coach with the Yankees. And one of my best friends that I met in Liberal, Kansas, coaching the BJs, was Joey Migliaccio, who spent a year at Iowa, and he now is the minor league hitting instructor with the Yankees. So it's like such a small world, and you never know who you're going to meet, man. I mean, it's not about what you know in life. Sometimes it's about who you know.
But then you got to take advantage of that too. I sold myself short, and this is what players have to understand is, I got named the head coach at Creighton University, and at times also people start to think, oh, it's because you knew Jim Hendry. You know what? I earned it. I earned that opportunity. And sometimes as a young player, I earned it. It wasn't handed to me. I was very fortunate. Now, what happened to me doesn't happen hardly ever. But sometimes I was like, man, am I the right person for this job? And that's actually why I had to go out and hire Ed Service and Bill Olson. I had to get some older guys around me to get a little different perspective, and some guys that were a little more seasoned. And so I learned that I had to get different people around me in order to, if I was going to continue to do this for very long. So baseball is a great thing, man. Relationships are nothing better than having relationships with with older, younger people and helping them out. I think that's pretty special in the game of baseball. It's you guys are doing good stuff here with this podcast, and
We're
the
trying.
travel
We're
stuff.
trying.
Yeah, it's good stuff, and you got the lightning bolt behind you too, which I like the flash sign.
Um, at the end of every podcast I go through, it's called the lightning round. Obviously, we're the lightning, so
Mm-hmm.
you got to think of cheesy catchphrases.
Oh, yeah.
I'll ask you some questions, unimportant, short, quick answers.
Yep.
Do you put pineapple on pizza?
I have, but I don't.
Big Green Monster is a Chicago Ivy.
Chicago Ivy, a Chicago boy here.
Pitching.
Cubs fan.
Well, I'm an Indians fan, so I
Yeah.
have a little bit of a hatred for you guys for that World Series a couple years back. Pitching.
Hey, my kids almost had a heart attack that day when that home run went out of the park. So I told them you have to believe. They still tell me that because I looked around and said you got to believe. You got to find a way.
It's crazy that I don't know if this is a knock on Cleveland sports or just how big that moment was, but even though we didn't win the World Series, that moment and that specific time is still one of the coolest.
Yeah.
Like, Rajay Davis choking up on the bat this much, hitting a pitch at his shoestrings off, at the time, one of the best closers in the game. Like,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
What's your favorite MLB ballpark?
Wrigley Field.
Who's your favorite baseball player?
Ooh, my favorite baseball player. Derek Jeter. I mean, I was a Ryan Sandberg guy growing up, actually. So I'll go Ryan Sandberg.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
The hot dog a sandwich. Yes, but I don't put ketchup on it.
See, some people say no because it's not a sandwich, and then other people say, well, by the definition of sandwich, it's meat between two pieces of bread.
Well, that's what it's bread. So if I asked my mom back in the day to make me a sandwich, I wasn't thinking of a hot dog, but when you got bread,
no.
But so
this is always a huge bus debate every year when we're driving 10 hours to an away game was a hot dog a sandwich, and people are arguing about it for 2 hours.
The thing is for me growing up in Chicago, the Chicago dog, I don't hardly eat them because if I can eat an Italian beef sandwich, I'm going to go with the Italian beef sandwich.
So you like Portillo's?
Oh, I love Portillo's. So Mount Mercy baseball, Chico went to Portillo's when we were in Chicago. The Clinton Lumber Kings, anytime we could stop at a Portillo's, we stop at a Portillo's.
When I was an admissions counselor at Iowa Wesleyan, my territory was Illinois. So, Kankakee and it's all over, just driving. And everyone always said we would get a lot of Chicago kids. Got to go to Portillo's, and this is what you got to order.
Yeah.
So artificial turf or natural grass? This is going to be interesting for you because I feel like you're an old school guy. So you should say natural grass. However, you need turf.
I had turf at Creighton. Then I went to Iowa, natural grass. Now I've got an incredible turf facility. So as a coach, I love turf. As a player, I'm about grass. So the natural surface, that's baseball. But you know what? I have a lot less work in being up north, the weather.
You're home 20 minutes after practice if you want.
Yep. You gotta have the turf here if you're gonna get all your
You'll never practice outside. You'll be indoors all year round.
I learned about frost when I got to college, where the frost would come up. We're playing at Creighton and I'm a shortstop, and next thing I know, it's muddy. I'm like, what the heck? And the frost was coming up, and so I like the natural.
You think you got a nice firm surface that day, but really it's just frozen. It's not firm.
It gets really soft in a hurry on those nice days.
Are you pro or anti-shift?
I'm anti-shift.
What's your favorite Gatorade flavor?
You know what? I like purple with Tito's in it. I'll be honest. I don't just drink. That's
that's so funny.
When we're playing golf, those we started off at 10 o'clock in the morning with a purple Gatorade and Tito's.
Purple Gatorade's my favorite flavor. I learned in college, if I like a drink, do not mix that drink with alcohol because you're gonna hate it at some point. It's gonna turn against you.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
funny.
Well, I don't drink Gatorade unless it's got Cheetos in it. So anyway, so that's not a
Oh,
problem.
one of my favorite things to do when we were in Iowa, and you could do this in Iowa because you're just surrounded by cornfields, and everything was. Me and the head coach would get 12-pack of beer, and we'd go out to the field the night before if it's good weather,
Yeah.
and you'd water it, and do your cutting, and drink a 12-pack of beer, and it's the best times. It's the best
Oh
times on the
yeah,
field. So,
it is. You know what else is good? People, we call it a voodoo. Vodka, Diet Mountain Dew. So that's instead of drinking that, all that energy drinks that these kids drink nowadays. When
oh,
I've had a long day and I go and we'll get a voodoo. So that's a good
my
good
old
time.
my old high school coach would still to this day when I go home, we drink Harvey Wallbangers.
Oh boy.
And I feel like not many people know what a Harvey Wallbanger is,
Oof.
but they don't know about Galliano. But he would tell me, "This thing is gonna punch you in the face.
Yeah, it's gonna.
This thing's this little tall, skinny bottle right here that we're putting around the top. It's gonna punch you in the face."
Yes, indeed.
What's
Yes.
last one I got? What's the best? What's the best sunflower seed flavor?
I'm just plain. I'm plain. Yeah. So I don't mind that. You know which one I don't mind a little bit is salt and pepper, but I'm more a plain guy. But I
Like,
can't. I've gotten out of that. I'm a big into routines. You can't have sunflower seeds on turf.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I
you're
was a
right.
huge sunflower seed guy. Now I'm not. The 4-game series used to kill me, man. My mouth would be raw. There's
Oh
actually
yeah.
there's actually a rule in the NCAA rule book now, and it's really the Jack Dahm rule. It's we were playing Minnesota. I got thrown out in the first inning, and first or second inning, and I'm the umpire guy. I wish I could remember his name. He's one of the head umpires. He was a younger guy at the time. Good guy. And I'm walking away, and he baited me back, and I just went off on him. And I had been chewing sunflower seeds, and he got doused in sunflower seeds. And my equipment manager said it took him like 3 innings to finally get all the sunflower seeds off of him because I
Oh
started
my
yelling. There
god.
is actually a rule in the baseball manual right now that if you spit sunflower seeds on an umpire, you're going to be ejected. And that was after I spit sunflower seeds all over an umpire.
Oh, that's
So,
amazing. So,
yeah.
Coach, normally at the end I ask if you guys have anything to plug. You've actually already mentioned quite a few things. The Walking Tall Foundation,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and what's the official name of the Flash Cancer?
It's Win the Day Fight for Flash Foundation. So if you go to the Fight for Flash Foundation, you can donate money. They have golf outings. They have shirts to sell and hats to sell, and it's they have a bourbon. They sell bourbon. They have a big bourbon night. Craig and Stacy are pretty cool.
If they were smart, they'd get Tito's and
they're well,
purple Gatorade.
yeah, they have that for me, thank goodness. But it's just tremendous, and Walking Tall is something that's just starting right now. And if you could go, he's on LinkedIn. He's I don't think he has Facebook, but he has a lot of the other stuff. The Walking Tall Foundation.com. Search it out. I think it's something that can be good for people. They're going to get the foundation going, and actually on there they're going to have doctors and counselors that you can call that are what they're trying to do is get special, if you have, if it's divorce, if it's a major tragedy in your life, whatever it is, somebody passed away, there's certain counselors out there that they feel like can focus on that. And by the way, as people know, is a lot of people, you go to a counselor and you just don't click. That doesn't mean counselors are bad. It means just find the right one for you.
Yep.
And I think that's something important for people to know. And that's one of the things that Walking Tall Foundation wants to try to help people with also.
Awesome. And when we get off here, if you could get me shoot me his contact information, and I will reach out to him. I would love to do a podcast with him, because I think even at the young age that just because our kids aren't grown men, I still think that they need to hear some of that stuff
Without a
because
doubt.
they're going to go through that at some point.
And I think parents need to hear it for their kids. Coaches need to hear it. Everybody needs to hear it. Let's be honest. Absolutely, everybody needs to hear it. And some people used to say it was a crutch or I'm not going to enable. You know what? It's real, man. We need to let's help people. Let's help people.
If you know somebody that has struggled with it, or if you struggle with it yourself, or somebody that's taken their life, you no longer think it's a crutch. You no longer feel that way, and we want to get ahead of that. We don't want to look back and have to say, what could I have done differently? So
that's the old thought process that we need to get out of here. And mental health is real. It's here. What can we do to embrace it and help people? And I think a lot of times it goes back to that board of directors, like I talked about, just listening. A lot of times you just sit there and listen to somebody, and it's amazing what you can do for somebody by listening.
I totally agree with you, Coach. I've enjoyed today. Again, sometimes a lot. The first couple episodes, it's been a lot of guys that I've known, I've been close with, and that's one conversation. And having somebody on that I met 15 minutes before we press record, you never really know what you're gonna get. But I'm so thankful that you were able to come on today, and I appreciate it. And especially with the mental health stuff and the perspective that you offer, as being not just with baseball, but you've been in the game for so long. The perspective that you have on life, I think, can help so many people. And I appreciate you coming on today.
I appreciate it.
I know you don't have Twitter or any of those things, but we'll make sure that I'll send you where the stuff gets posted. Just to finish with my outro here, that I got to finish every podcast. It's the intro and the ending are the hardest things in the world. We can sit and talk for 2 hours and it's great, but having to tell all the millions of people that are listening, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Apple and Spotify. We want to thank our sponsor today, lineupcards.com. You can head over to lineupcards.com and you can have a 4-part lineup card printed, 11x17 dugout cards printed for your softball team or baseball team. They'll put your info, your team roster, your logo on it. They'll send you over a email proof before anything's printed. Head over to lineupcards.com. Those guys make it easy. We've been working with them forever. That's always the hardest part because I always stumble over my words. But having a conversation about baseball left and right that's easy. So, Coach, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good luck with this season, and we'll be in touch. Send me that guy's contact information.
I'll do it right away and give Chico a big hug from me.
I will. I'm not going to give him a hug, but I'll shake his hand. I don't like him enough to give him a hug.
Oh, there. Good point. Appreciate it.
All right, Coach. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you. Talk to you later.